Okay, let's shift away from the more complex aspects of economics and state and turn to a simple thing. Tell me about nationalism, tell me about patriotism. They both sound alike to me.
Yeah, so, both of us, Ajay Shah, are people who love our country deeply. And we hate nationalism deeply. In fact, I think nationalism is anti-national, right? And why do I say that? I say that because I'm Bengali and Tagore said it, and I'll just quote him on that. But basically to kind of define them, that patriotism means you love your country, but nationalism means that you define a nation for yourself in a way that other people, right? That this is my tribe, that is another tribe, that tribe is the enemy, and you're playing to those basic tribal instincts which are hardwired into us. And many of our instincts we could amplify, but some we must mitigate, and this is one that we always should mitigate. Now, Tagore called nationalism a great menace. It was Tagore who said, it is a particular thing which for years has been at the bottom of India's troubles, right? Because he recognized what it could do. He recognized that the othering that happens with a nationalism can tear society apart and is dangerous to all of us. Karl Popper famously said, nationalism appeals to our tribal instincts, to passion and to prejudice, and to our nostalgic desire to be relieved from the strain of individual responsibility, which it attempts to replace by a collective or group responsibility. This is in his great book, The Open Society and Its Enemies. And you sort of see an Indian version of this nationalism, like just to make clear what I mean by othering and tribal thinking, I refer to Savarkar's book, What is Hindutva, which comes out in 1925, right? And which is a formulation that is still very much in vogue. I mean, Savarkar and the RSS did not see eye to eye on many things, and the Hindu Mahasabha went away. But a lot of the nationalist movement today kind of believes with that. And Savarkar was driven by antipathy towards Muslims and Christians, but not towards Jains and Hindus, Jains and Buddhists. So how could he possibly, justify this with a theory that made some kind of intellectual coherent sense that would be complete in and of itself if you accept the basic premise, right? And in fact, in an episode of The Seen and the Unseen with me, Shruti Kapila described Hindutva as a theory of violence in search of a history. And Savarkar made an attempt to give it a history and a theory. And Savarkar's formulation was this. He first attempted to define Hindu, and he said, you are a Hindu if both your homeland and your land of worship is India. And the moment you say both your homeland and your land of worship, you are counting out Christians and Muslims because your land of worship is allegedly somewhere else. And you are saying, okay, Jains and Buddhists are allowed there among us. It's a very convenient formulation. In a way, it's a masterful formulation because he achieved his end. It is deeply, deeply toxic. And no one questions the premise that, okay, you said this, but why? Why should this formulation hold true? Why should this be a Hindu? Thousands of thinkers before you have defined it in very, very different and more inclusive ways. Bhai, aap kaun hote ho? But this is a kind of toxic nationalism. This is what I mean by the other. Integral to Savarkar's nationalistic vision is the othering of Muslims and Christians, right? And there are so few Christians in India that we don't really see this play out to that extent today. But the major fault line in our politics today is the othering of Muslims.